Little opening music.
Yeah. Opening music. Okay. All right. Let's do this. Hello, everyone.
Little opening.
Yeah, I've got to do all the checking, the chickadee checking. All right. So today we are going to be chatting about like some reported alien attacks, UFO attacks around the world, like kind of a glimpse through history on, and we'll do some sidelining. Not as much news today because I was at a meeting earlier and Betsy has been grinding the show out. But if there is any news that comes across our feeds while we do this, we will definitely mention it because we love news. And then of course Dozer is going to interrupt anything that happens. But yeah, how's everyone doing?
Welcome.
Yeah. All right, Betsy.
So before we talk about like the instances where people have claimed alien attack, I would like to first clear something up. I think anytime you are abducted and probed or
Kegel-fu.
medical experiments are conducted on you, it's an attack. So
I've been practicing my Kegel-fu still. It's a daily routine.
1, 2.
I'm telling you.
So just this year, there was a study done. So July 2nd, 2021 is when this was reported. And the study finds that most believe an alien invasion on Earth is inevitable. So an alien invasion is different than an attack, obviously. And an attack is maybe pods or a sector of aliens coming in and attacking a person or a place. An invasion
is they're coming to take over the planet.
Yeah, or a part of the planet.
Coming to steal our resources and blow up the White House. Can we vote for the aliens?
How do we get in contact with these aliens?
Send them a map. Aim here. Anyways,
so most believe, as far as this poll went, it was like 80% believe that it is inevitable. And now as we're learning more, 80%. As we're learning more about the universe, our solar system, the vast number of solar systems around, and just how we are but a speck of dust amongst an entire beach full of specks of dust floating.
Yeah. So there's supposedly more stars in the cosmos than there are grains of sand on all the beaches in all the world.
Yeah. So if you can just think about that for a moment and try and wrap your head around that, the idea that we are alone takes on this whole new level of insanity. And then if you think about how if you're not a religious person, if you think about the way scientists explain how life began, the idea that it only began here.
You're talking about the trebuchet flinging.
Yeah, well, that's one of them. I don't know if scientists buy into that.
Genetic material across the world, the cosmos just throwing
some alien just sending goo all over the universe. But no, scientists who have studied this basically say that life springs forth given the correct environment. So the idea that life has not sprung forth in other places in other ways just doesn't it doesn't pan out. So
it's honestly an impossible thought that we would be the sole like the sole expression of of life or expression of nature coming into its own in all this vastness. There's only one way that, well, maybe two ways that could happen. And one of them would be a simulation theory that is, totally focused on us. And how do kids nowadays survive the thought of the cosmos?
Yeah. I mean, to be made so small, I guess, would have its benefits. But it would also, like, wow,
Mm.
talk about broaden your horizons. So 63% of the people, now this will tell you where we are culturally and worldwide. 63% said they'd welcome an alien if they saw one. Please
That's-
come.
God,
We've
would-
been waiting for you.
would I
And
welcome?
1 in 20 people claim to have already seen an extraterrestrial.
1 in 20.
1 in 20.
I'll bet.
20 people?
I'll,
One of them has likely
I'll
seen
bet.
either a ship or an actual being.
What do you think? 10 years ago, it was 1 in maybe 50. 10
Yeah.
years before that, 1 in 100. I mean,
Yeah.
and is that, man, that's
So-
a big question.
With pilots, radar operators, and intelligence community personnel coming forward and speaking about their experience, this subject is now being taken seriously within the government as well. We should remember that the skeptics have the right, or have to, we should remember that the skeptics have the right every single time, whereas believers only have to be right once. So skeptics
Yeah.
have to be right every single time. Believers only have to be right once. That was an
Mm.
interesting thought. So, how do you plan to survive an alien invasion? This was another thought-provoking subject.
Oh, Kegel foo.
So, 10 ways.
Kegel foo works for a couple of different things: alien invasion, prison, alien prisons.
I mean, okay, so as they polled these people in this study, they kind of came up with 10 ways that people will prepare on average for an alien invasion. So the number one, okay, let's start with number 10 because number one,
Yeah,
wait till we
gotta
get to
go.
that. The number 10, in the number 10 spot was fashion a weapon using household objects.
I should announce number 10.
So I have to think about that.
Okay.
Fashion a weapon. We live in a pretty red state. We wouldn't have to fashion a weapon.
Yeah, it's a pretty good point. We would
In
be
most cases,
walking past the guns
we would have a
and
weapon.
then the knives and the hatchets and all the tools for yard work and the riding lawnmower to make a bleach squirt gun. I don't have any squirt guns. I have a spray bottle though.
Now that I think about it, I don't have anything.
I need to get me a.
But for those of us who may be in a place where you don't have personal weapons or may just have an affliction to having personal weapons, you have to think, what would a weapon look like using household objects? Like, is it duct tape at the end of a broom pole so you don't have to get close? Is it, your little paring knives used as throwing stars? I mean, what does that look like? So that was number.
Okay, so fashion a
Mhm.
weapon out of household items. I'm just looking around this room.
Mhm.
There's some pens. I could paper cut them.
Poke an eye out if they have eyes.
Man.
Number 9.
Number 9.
Stock up on toilet paper.
Of course. If anything, the last year has taught us, if anything happens, stock up on toilet paper.
We have been reduced to this, people.
Didn't they have an earthquake just a couple days ago? I want to say in Central America that was like a 8 point whatever.
And they just ran out and bought toilet paper. wiped the shelves clean.
Well, they're
no
not.
pun intended.
They're not a United States um, citizens, so maybe they. I don't
Don't.
know. Stripped a tree of leaves. I don't know what that's like where they live. I don't know what they use. What if they use the 3 seashells?
I don't want to know what the 3 seashells are.
No one knows what it is. They never explained it on Demolition Man. But you don't know how to use 3 seashells? How quaint.
How quaint. Number 8.
Number 8.
Build a bunker.
Yeah,
Okay, so
that's a go-to.
yeah, this I would agree would be great if you have early preparation time. If the sirens are going off and you're seeing the ships landing, this is not a good go-to. I would 10 out of 10 not recommend starting a bunker then.
Yeah,
But
you
then
want
you
to
have-
have it.
Yeah, I've always said to myself, I don't want a nuclear bunker
As the aliens
because
come,
I don't want to come out of it to whatever the hell is left behind. I'd
So-
rather just be incinerated.
well, as the aliens come creeping up, whatever, you're out there with your shovel. Give me a few minutes,
Right.
working on it. Yeah, you want to already have the bunker. Bunker's your plan. Where was that earthquake at? There was one like last week. It was huge.
Pretty bad.
Yeah, it was like an 8 point. I don't know how they do earthquakes, but it was an 8 point something. It was big.
Number 7,
Number 7.
put the tea kettle on.
Oh, welcome him in.
I would argue
Yeah.
that may be the best idea. Just relax,
Kind of be cool.
take a deep
Lure
breath,
him into your place and then sneeze COVID on him. I've seen War of the Worlds.
welcome them in for a cup of tea and a crumpet.
Uh-huh.
Um,
But what if they're like Alf and they want to eat your pets?
well, maybe put a tea kettle on and hide your pets.
Have a
It would
cat
be like
soaking
a
in it.
slash hide your pets. Number 6,
Mhm.
turn off all the lights at home and hope the aliens think you're not in. Again, not
That's
a
a
bad
good one.
idea.
That's a pretty good
I don't
one.
know if aliens have lights where they
But-
come from and if that's how they identify if people are home or not. But the idea that you would just
On that documentary, the Predator, the Predator could see in thermal vision.
cover yourself in yogurt, fresh from the fridge,
Back to household items.
back to household weapons.
Yes.
Number 5, escape to the countryside.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's an argument to be made that there is more places to hide in the city,
Might not be a bad idea to start in the countryside.
but I would argue also that if we had a full-scale invasion, they would likely not land in a farmer's field somewhere. They would likely land somewhere that was highly populated.
But but you know about the cows, right?
I do know about the cows.
The cows aren't in the city. They're in farmers'
I
fields.
know, and they suck them up into their craft. I know. I'm just saying.
I'm telling yeah. Okay.
Number 4,
Number 4.
barricade all doors and windows.
Good idea. Yeah.
I mean, it sends the message that you're not friendly, so you might want to think about the tea kettle. But
Put the tea kettle outside with a list of instructions written in hieroglyphic signals, and then nail the door shut.
Les says that's what Grandma would do: offer them a cookie. Well,
Yeah,
she
would.
has to stick with her strengths. She'd
And-
be like, "Would you like a chocolate
Not
chip
just
cookie?"
that, but
And they'd go home and say, "She's Grandma Cookie. We can't invade the planet."
it'd be a different animal. First of all, they'd come in, they'd say, "My name's Gleep Glorp," and then she would go through a list of 40 names before she got to Gleep Glorp every time she saw him.
Whose little friend are you?
Yeah, it'd get wild up in Grandma's.
Number 3, run to the supermarket for essentials. Listen,
Toilet paper. Back to toilet paper.
back to toilet paper. What are we as humans? What have we been
Well,
reduced
all right.
to?
Let
we
me ask
need
you this.
tigers. We need lions and tigers
Oh,
that are
I-
chasing us because we
agree.
have been reduced to these puddles of toilet paper using sludge.
I agree. I used to be against releasing, bringing the wolf population back, but now I'm for it. I think we need to not just that, but we need to start introducing steroids into the wolf population at the same time. I agree. We've become a whiny civilization. But when it comes to food, you have particular tastes.
Mm-hmm.
Like some people don't like meat, some people are gluten allergic, but
I would have to go stock up on Dr. Pepper.
there is no taste buds on the other end of your body.
True.
So you buy what toilet paper there is. That's pretty universal. I mean,
Phone books.
that could be toilet paper could be like
Oprah's got some books out. You could pick up a couple of those.
end of the
one
world
page at a time.
currency. Like say you need to buy a chicken. You walk up on the caravan in the wasteland, and it'd have a sign. It would say, 1 chicken, 2 rolls of toilet paper.
Yes. You
know.
could barter with this amazing essential.
It can be separated down into squares, so it's divisional.
You could pull the 2-ply apart and make 2 rolls.
That's what you're getting knee deep into it, or elbow deep into it. But
okay, so go up. Wendy made a comment.
We've had a few comments. Let's take a minute and run through them. Kimberly, hi. James, hi. Kimberly. Our government has been creating and making many crafts that look exactly like UFO crafts. Reverse engineered and as wand, or is that want, can move faster than our known crafts, and I look for our own government to make it look as if we are invaded by. It will be our own probably made to look as if it were aliens.
I've thought about that.
This could be an actual control as well. Yes, and man,
I've thought about that because number 2 on this is panic.
That's not number 1?
No. Number 1 is worse than panic. And I would argue that panic...
Is it making a map to the White House?
It says rely on the government experts to sort it out.
Uh-huh. All right. We'll run through some more. We got Wendy says, hey, guys.
Hi, Wendy.
I actually made my second live. Woo. Now, Wendy has started a podcast. So, Wendy, go ahead and throw in there the name of your podcast. We'll announce it. We would love to do that for you. Wendy's been on our show. She's an awesome lady.
So personal weapons are of no use. Look at the Battle of LA. Over 1,400 rounds of artillery couldn't bring 2 crafts down. Yes.
Now
but I think people would be in a position where they would panic and try to fashion something. But if they make it to Earth, we have to acknowledge that they are the superior being. That's why I think a tea kettle is the best idea. And a cookie. Maybe my plan would be go to grandma's. She will have cookies.
Take the tea kettle. She's got the cookies.
Yes.
That is true. And she would do that. Okay. Wendy says, if they are neurologically superior to us, as Dr. David Jacobs and Jack Carey insist they are, will they be able to paralyze us on a mass scale like that? I wonder.
See, but then none of this planning
I don't want to
matters.
think about that because all of my Kegel food preparations, right?
Paralyzed.
All the belts I award myself with it, my gi that I wear when I practice, all of that would be negated if they can make me go dumb and then they have their way with my nether regions. I don't want to think about that. James says Stephen Hawking had said that it would be a mistake to send signals into space or to try to contact aliens. After what we have seen, what happens when 2 civilizations make contact with each other and one is more advanced than the other. And that is very true.
That has played out time and time again on our planet. So I would agree with Stephen Hawking in the sense that we need to just be quiet, sit down and shut up. Mind our own business, stay in our lane. As
they drive by, shut off the lights. Make the world look like North Korea.
Yes, dark. Nothing is there.
When that what was it called? The asteroid rocket ship came through. We should have done that. We should have shut off all the lights for a minute.
Yeah.
Just let them fly on by, and then they can go pick Mars.
So Kimberly says, stop and think. They are the ones that gave us technology but never so advanced to kill them. Yes.
Very true.
Yes.
Mm.
Wendy says, okay, gotcha. We pretend they can't use mind power so we can continue planning. See, that's part of the don't panic plan. We just keep trudging on. Don't panic. Don't think about it. Buy your toilet paper.
Well, I think we have to. Look at what ants do when we step on their ant pile.
Yeah, they run everywhere.
But they keep doing stuff. They keep going and getting sticks and leaves and bringing it back and
That's true. That's
showing
true.
off their impressive lifts and leaps and stick lifting skills and things like that.
Yeah.
I think we need to. I'm still going to revert back to. I'm going to sneeze COVID on them. Plan A.
Plan A.
Sneeze COVID.
Maintain in a state of sickness.
Yeah.
So that you can infect their entire invasion.
Once a week, I ride the public transport and I lick all the handles.
That is not a bad plan.
Just it builds up my immune system. My immune system would be robust.
Licking the handles.
I mean, it would be one of those. It'd be like,
they would study you.
Like the old stories.
Monuments
how you could never
would be
invade Russia because Russia's always trying to be invaded. But anyways, it'd be like that. But I'd constantly have this underlying cold and just ready. It'd be armed. It'd be like, packing one in the chamber on the pistol. It's ready.
Mm-hmm.
And they show up, sneeze, party ended. They throw a parade in my honor.
Yes. So let's get to the bizarre case of the Kolaris Island alien invasion,
Yes.
because this has been deemed as an invasion.
So
So,
Kolaris Island, that's off of Brazil, right?
Uh-huh.
It's a Brazilian island.
it is a Brazilian island. So the range of types of UFO encounters is pretty wide, and for the most part, they tend to inspire awe and wonder. Yet, in some cases like this one, it turns to dread and even terror. Now, this happened in the spring of 1977. So if we kind of look back at what was going on in 1977, it was pretty calm.
Yeah, I mean, the pictures made it look like it was perpetually overcast. I think that's just because there was, not very good photo technology at the time.
But we weren't were we in an active war?
In 77?
77?
Well, technically, no. But we had just come out of Vietnam. We were in much the same military morale that we are experiencing coming into right now.
Oh.
So
I hadn't considered that. We would have just been.
That would be an interesting time to study, because I think it might give us some insights into how we are going
Today.
to be, in a year. But yeah.
Because history repeats itself.
That rhymes.
All the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, the beginning in the spring of 1977, a very strange and ominous phenomenon began at a little-known place called Kolaris Island in the remote Brazilian region of Para. So, frightened locals began to report an intense amount of UFO activity in the skies, describing all manner of luminous spheres, glowing orbs, balls of fire, saucers, cigar-shaped metallic objects, and more. But what really stood out was how aggressive these objects seemed to be. Centuries, literal centuries, to the beginning of written history, people have experienced phenomenon in the sky. This was different because it was this huge uptick of phenomenon, but they were not just flyby. They were super aggressive. There were numerous reports that these unidentified objects were actively chasing and attacking people. So
yeah, like shooting at them.
Yes.
On the beach. And Kolaris Island is kind of a backwoods. That was my practice shot fired. it's kind of a backwoods but resort type island.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful beaches, popular place. Uh, Looks like a fun place to visit.
So it was reported that these objects that were chasing them were shooting these vivid thin rays of light and were actually leaving injuries such as burns or holes in the skin, as well as other instances when they were reported as approaching to actually suck blood from victims.
I'm
So
gonna have to go
we
back to the
have-
drawing board on this whole toilet paper plan.
So we don't have one person saying that they had an instance where something was shot at them. We have an island of people
Yeah, resort island.
who are experiencing this extremely terrifying event where there's glowing orbs, balls of fire, these metallic shaped objects. There's these thin rays of light that are hitting people and burning holes in their skin, and they're so convinced that this is something that is actually happening, that there are pictures of these holes burned in people's skin.
I'm showing one on the screen right now of this lady. She's in an infirmary, and on her like right clavicle area, they're kind of the doctors lifting the skin to show you where she received some damage.
So in many cases, these beams of lights that were projected were described as always sharply defined and directed with perfect precision towards any target. So these people would be running from these and still get hit. They were targeting houses. So houses were getting burn holes in them, people, boats, trees, and even the Brazilian Air Force's helicopters who had been deployed over the
thing. What come out, the news that come out of this from the military, and I think Brazil, maybe because of its location, or it's such a happy looking place or something, seems to draw these in, because we've got that what was that town we talked about, started with the V, Virginia, but like Virginia.
Vahinha.
Yeah, I said it right. I had it dead on. I should honestly just get my degree for speaking Portuguese right now. But Brazil has a very interesting history with UFOs. And I mean, it's located there on the equator. It's lush, it's green. On the other side of the world, in Africa, where the equator is, it's not as lush, not as green, not as inviting. And if the aliens landed in the Sahara, who would know?
True.
There's nothing there.
They may be there already.
I think they would have to walk long and hard to find a scorpion.
Yeah.
Let alone a person. But in this area of Brazil, where, I mean, they call it the, like the lung of the earth and everything else. It's populated. It's beautiful. It's green. The beaches are magical. So, yeah.
Well, and I've often wondered if its position on the earth at the time that these took place in 1977 could play into it, because we talked about these time warps or these wormholes, and how now we're kind of starting to understand, or at least starting to see things that indicate that solar flares, as they bump up against the magnetic pole of the earth, may actually create a wormhole. So is it not?
The sun's working against us on this too?
Yes. Is it
all right?
not...
I'm in with Bill Gates. Bill Gates, we got to get working hard on this, whatever shit you're going to shoot
reflective
in the sky.
shit in the sky.
We got to. Sun's got to go down.
But what if we're missing a key point of this? That it's not Brazil because it's lush and green. It was opportunistic, because that was a point of entry that worked.
Could be, or it could just be that's like the equator. you're flying across the galaxy, so you aim for the middle of something,
Yeah.
and
There's where you land.
so that's like the middle. And I mean, if the Earth had rotated a little more, you land in the ocean, and if it rotates a little more than that, you land in the desert. And
Yeah, and maybe it's just that simple. If you're pointing an aircraft at
yeah,
at
just
an Earth, you want to hit center mass because of the speed at which you have to travel to get there, obviously.
yeah. I mean, they've got to be cruising.
So some of the accounts were quite spectacular, as with a boat full of fishermen near Ilha dos Caranhegos. So that's the name of the, I guess, coastal town.
Yeah, it's on the island. It's kind of a little.
So these fishermen claim that an intense ball of light had positioned itself over their boat and fired beams at them, burning several of them and even killing a man. So, in their accounts that they gave to local authorities and the Brazilian Air Force, they said they were out fishing. It was just before dusk. They watched this beam of light, this ball of light, come flying in out of their peripheral vision. It actually stalled or stopped intentionally right above the boat and fired beams at them, burning several of them and killing a man.
Mm. So they got shot at.
Yeah. It was a targeted, and we're not talking a military base. We're talking 3 guys on a boat. They're fishing. It's so common down there.
Hmm.
Another such frightening report would come from a local man named Cardoso, who says one evening an orb of light entered his room and tried to get blood from him. He says of his surreal experience, everybody else was asleep. I was just still having my last smoke, and suddenly a ball of fire entered our house up near the ridgepole of the gable. It started shooting round and round the room, so flying quickly round and round the room, and then finally came right close.
So the little ball of light came in his house?
Came into the house.
So the one that attacked the fisherman was bigger.
It had to have been, yes.
But the one that came in the house was little, like a little mini vampire UFO?
It has to be, because he claims that it was shooting round and around the room, then finally came right close to the hammock he was in. And it ran up my right leg as far as the knee without touching my skin. He said he watched it. He was kind of curious. He wasn't at first panicked. It was just this strange thing that was happening. And then he said he started to feel really sleepy and lethargic. His cigarette fell from his hand and he started to scream. The fireball quickly vanished and everybody woke up. He believes that it had been searching for a vein. It appeared to him as though it was kind of scanning his leg, looking for an entry point.
It was going for the crotch for a vein.
And he said he could feel a heat coming off of it.
Now, that is something I don't think's been explored very much in alien movies, is what if they want blood? Because we had that one that came out a few years back where they wanted water, and then you had that documentary ID4, is that what it was called? Independence Day?
Oh, yeah, the documentary.
That documentary, Independence Day. And that one, they just kind of wanted to destroy everything and consume it all. They were kind of a consuming species, but ones that want blood, and it sounds like it wanted blood from a very particular area. I don't want to say it was going for Grundle blood, but it was going awful close to Grundle blood. And if an alien...
Is Grundle blood better?
I think we would have to consult a very particular vampire sect to ask that question. I don't think the average vampire sect has really delved that deep. And, I don't know where this vampire sect would be, but I'll be on the lookout.
So many of the people targeted by these mysterious lights described a wide range of negative physical injuries and effects. This is not uncommon. We've heard this before, but fainting, nausea, tremors, migraines, shortness of breath, muscle weakness, burns, anemia, bruising, blistering. When we had Damien on, he actually showed us pictures
Mm-hmm.
of his interaction following a purple
Yeah, he
orb.
had like a big burn,
Yeah,
a big one.
yeah,
And that's Damien, not everyone.
yeah. So he's actually got a couple of books out, and
Yeah.
you'll have to go check him out. But
Documentary as well.
and blood loss. A lot of these people feeling that they had, maybe contracted something or been exposed to something, were showing up at hospitals, and their blood pressures were really low and in need of transfusion.
Mm.
So it terrified the residents so much, and they were so convinced that the lights were trying to suck their blood, that the phenomenon was being called chupa chupa or sucker suckers. I like that.
How do you say grundle in Portuguese?
I can ask my neighbor.
Yeah.
She speaks Portuguese, although she would be like, why would you want to know that?
I mean, if we got to, we can go more medical term, but
So as this is all going on, hospitals were experiencing a deluge of people claiming to have been attacked by UFOs. Like, these people were not living in a vacuum. This was so terrifying that they were showing up at the hospital saying, we have been attacked by a flying object.
yeah, I just showed the picture of the lady that is in a hospital, on a hospital bed, with a physician or a nurse.
So one local doctor actually was, I believe, interviewed by the Brazilian Air Force. He also shared his story with some local news crews, where he said, I can tell you what I'm seeing. These patients coming in have suffered lesions to the face or the thoracic area. The lesions began with intense reddening of the skin in the affected area, much like a burn, varied in extension. This redness is known as hyperemia. Later, the skin of the affected region started to fall like alopecia. It would actually peel away. And
like an actual burn.
Yes.
Like it was.
And then if it was covered with hair on your arm, chest, head, then the hair would fall out and the skin was turning black.
So it kind of went necrotic.
Yeah. And the victims were men and women of varying ages without any pattern. They tried to connect it. What they did was just treat the injuries as they came in. Now, in most of these inexplicable cases, the doctor also noted that strange symptoms would linger for days or even weeks, requiring hospitalization, and some of them would never recover at all, with some deaths even being reported. In the meantime, all of this is going on at the hospital. The Brazilian Air Force is flying overhead. People are, dying from these strange symptoms and lesions and burns. And all the while, these reports kept flooding in nightly, increasing in intensity as the months went on, until by August.
So is this like a repeated visit, all the time?
It's constant.
So it's kind of an infestation.
Yes.
Of grundle sucking aliens.
Yeah. So this started in early spring.
Grundle chupa.
Chupa grundle.
Chupa grundle.
Grundle sucker.
Gosh, we got to throw the chupa in there though.
So by August, it is estimated that thousands of people all over the island had either seen or been chased and assaulted by mysterious flying objects, which seemed to always come from the north, and in some cases were described as detaching from a mothership. So they would see a large object appear in the north.
The one that got the fisherman.
and then it would shoot out these smaller orbs, and there would be these attacks on the people.
See, and now here's another question to go into the blood sucking. If they weren't blood sucking, but say they were doing damage, could that lead to a significant enough loss of blood that you would
Succumb to the injury?
yeah, or maybe not succumb, but feel woozy, feel maybe
Sure.
anemic after?
Sure. Blood loss is associated with a lot of things: nausea, dizziness, headaches, lots of things.
Yeah.
So-
well, that's what they warn you about on the little blue pill bottles. You know. Anyways, let's run through a real quick news story. So we're going to today go to Thailand.
Oh, Thailand. I want to
Yes.
visit. I want to actually go to Thailand. I hear
would-
the Thai people are so amazing.
Oh yeah, I would love to go. So in Bangkok, Thailand, due to the coronavirus crisis, it kind of shut down the nation quite a bit. So taxi workers have kind of started putting these, if you're watching, you can see it on screen, but they've built these little boxes on top of the roofs of their taxis, and they've started little gardens. So they've got
Mobile gardens?
I don't even know if it's mobile. It looks like it sounds like they're all just parked, but they have built garden boxes on the tops of cars. And I want to argue that this may not be a bad thing to carry forward with after. You know,
Yeah,
it's
the
real
rooftop
estate.
doesn't give you a lot of real estate, but it is real estate.
But I mean, that's still, I mean, you could pop a potato in there, maybe a couple of tomato plants. I don't know what else people grow. Peppers. Rooftop salsa.
Rooftop salsa.
You could have a salsa garden. You need a couple onions. You need some Anaheim, some jalapenos, a couple of tomatoes. Tomatoes might be tough because from every time I've seen them, you have to have them in that little tomato prison.
Mhm,
You know,
mhm.
they've got to be kind of caged in.
Tied up, and they get pretty tall.
Yeah,
Corn might be a little difficult. You know.
But they've been using this. Okay, so they made these financial deals to buy these taxis or rent them, you know, whatever, or lease them, however they done it. And so the taxi's been holding still, but they had this agreement to pay for these taxis. So they built these gardens on top. They would sell the produce and they would make their taxi payment. I think everyone's coming out of this hole.
Is land in Thailand like really difficult to get a hold of, or is it just too swampy?
I don't know. I've never been to Thailand.
I would never think we need to grow vegetables and then look at a vehicle and go,
But if you've got to pay for
there.
that car anyway,
Yeah.
you know, and you can pop out an extra.
Necessity is the mother of all.
I think it's awesome. It is awesome. Now, some of the drivers, you know, surrendered their cars, returned home, whatever. But that's an economic destructive device when that happens, you know. The person who originated the lease loses out. The person who took the lease loses out. Everybody's punished. These guys are like, I'm going to be ready to.
I'm going to utilize this in whatever way I
but
can.
yeah, until then, I'm going to. Now, granted, some of them may be growing other things, which may turn a bigger profit and allow them to buy more taxi cabs to farm on. But I think that is pretty wild.
That is wild.
Yeah.
I would love to see that personally.
I would too. Now this guy, he looks like our sister for some reason.
The kimchi squat.
The squat. That's what.
The squat.
But yeah, he's going for it.
So
making that money.
The people on this island kind of stuck with number 2, the panic. It was like total hysteria.
What are you gonna do? It's a grundle sucker.
Yes.
Chupa grundle.
Chupa grundle.
The thing, if they came and just were burning holes in you, I think I could remain pretty calm.
Yeah.
But, you know, we've come here to suck your grundle blood.
Yeah.
I'm not doing okay.
Now we have a problem.
Yeah. No, not.
They were afraid to go out at night, huddling in large groups where they sought safety in numbers. They would light bonfires or launch armed patrols in the neighborhoods or the districts. in an effort to scare the Chupa Chupas away. And it was eerily quiet on the streets as the noise was thought to lure in whatever this was.
Oh, I can only imagine.
A local mayor is quoted as saying, "Yes, indeed, I can tell you, there wasn't a moment of peace. The people were terrified by the Chupa Chupa affair. I even managed to see one of the injured victims myself. There was a lady who was receiving medical treatment at the health clinic. The people were terrified because this beam of light had already assaulted several people. The whole community was packed into only 3 houses, praying and sometimes singing religious songs."
Into 3 houses.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Personally, I think that makes you an easier target.
that is true. That is true. You don't want to gather so much.
Yeah.
You don't want to become a target rich environment.
Yeah.
But do you think that's the people that didn't like flee to other
Perhaps.
cities or
Or
the
couldn't.
mainland? Yeah.
There were even reports of people apparently seeing the actual occupants of these craft, who were apparently quite hostile. One local resident claimed to have had such an encounter after walking one evening to find everything bathed in this like greenish glow. So he's walking down the road and everything around him just turns to like this greenish glow. And then this glow would steadily become red. It was at that point that she realized it was a beam being directed right at her. And she then saw something very weird. She says, "In one of these days after midnight, I woke up because of a strong flash, a sort of focused bright light ray that came down in front of my home from the top of, or from what looked like the top of my roof, directly onto my left chest. I tried to shout, but my voice did not function. I felt an exquisite heat. Later, that beam of light diminished, and I saw that I was burnt. I could see a creature, like a man, wearing a jumpsuit, kind of like a dive suit, really. He pointed it at me, and the object shone 3 times, striking my chest during the 3 occasions."
He pointed the object at her or
Yeah.
the jumpsuit at her?
The object. "It wounded me. It seemed that I had needles piercing at all 3 points. I was terrified. I could not move my legs. It felt hot and it hurt. It was like a needle stick. My health never came back to be the same since that night." So what you'll
Sorry, where?
find is we relate to things from a position of experience.
Well, yeah, what's familiar, you know.
So she mentions the dive suit. We could only kind of assume that
It's in a spacesuit. It's in a protective gear so that you don't sneeze COVID
or
at it.
that its skin is kind of taut like a dive suit, and maybe it's not wearing anything, but she's kind of seeing it from her perspective of experience.
So it's not only is it invading and sucking the grundle blood, but it's doing it in the buff.
Doing it in the buff.
Oh man,
getting personal.
Aliens all.
So
creepy.
considering all of these reports and the panic that was happening, this was becoming national news. It was only a matter of time before the military would be drawn to this remote locale. So in late October of 1977, the Brazilian Air Force launched an official investigation, which would take it even further into the realm of bizarre. It did not resolve it. They would investigate the injuries, the victims, get eyewitness accounts, and even collect a good amount of purported photographic evidence of this phenomenon. Even weirder is that during the military presence on the island, they would be under attack.
Yeah.
So the military shows up in force. They're like, okay, something's clearly happening. They don't assume that it's extraterrestrial. They just know they have to intervene. There is an attack happening on this island. So they send in force aircraft, investigators, infantry, and they go on to say that they were attacked.
Now, wasn't some of their helicopters like attacked? I don't know if any of them got shot down or whatever, but they were attacked.
So one report was that they saw a UFO. They were in in a helicopter, and they saw a UFO direct a very powerful beam to the helicopter, obliging it to land. Now, I don't know if obliging it to land, because this is just an account, means forcing us to land, or if it meant that it was communicated to them to land. I believe what they're saying is that this powerful beam of light being directed at the helicopter forced them to make an emergency landing.
Yeah, well, I mean, they don't know if they got shot with
Right.
with a weapon that may damage the helicopter. They probably got to check it out.
So it goes on to say that the helicopters that appeared from time to time bringing materials and personnel attempted to chase these balls of light without much success. Indeed, on the contrary, they were being chased.
So they got lured in.
Yeah. So military does its study, pack up and leave. They're out of there in January of 1978 without offering the populace any sort of explanation, and labeling the whole investigation as classified. That gives me pause, because if there was nothing, then what do they classify? If it was explainable, then it wouldn't be classified.
Here's another crazy thing. Crazy thought. What if these were military aircraft, and they did it as an internal test on
what the populace would do?
The populace.
Test run.
Oh, then
this is a test run. Yeah. So at the time, there seemed to be some efforts to explain it all away as weather balloons or atmospheric phenomenon.
They always go to weather balloons or
yeah,
gaseous orbs or
This was not bought by the people. They weren't having it.
No, I've never known a weather balloon to suck Grundle blood.
So there seemed to have been some cover-up going on, and making this all the more sinister, the captain in charge of this very investigation, the guy at the top, would turn up dead 3 months later by suicide.
Really?
Yep. Yeah. And after 1978, the incidents would die down, but not stop, with sporadic accounts coming in throughout the decades since. So you're left to wonder what actually was going on there. Is there a way to explain it by way of a test run on, how people on this remote island would respond or panic, or would they tell the hospital officials? Was there really some kind of altercation taking place with an attack with technology that we don't understand?
Now, here's the thing. I don't think the aliens, well, maybe they do, but I don't think the aliens were truly coming down to
not invade
to get blood.
You don't think they want Grundle blood?
No, I honestly think that their weapons caused the side effect to make the people act or express anemic.
Could be.
That's honestly what I think. But we do have a couple of comments that have some good thoughts.
All right, let's go over the comments before we close the show.
Yes.
Very good point about the ants, actually.
Yeah. Ants, we're limited in our knowledge and our scope to what we have experience of. And take the helicopter back 300 years, and if another human being saw a helicopter flying, he wouldn't have a clue, so he would see something different, whereas ants are limited to their scope.
Yeah, and I would argue that ants do just kind of get back onto the business of living,
Gotta get that leaf.
And I would also argue that we don't ever stop and lean down and explain to the ants why we've stomped on them.
I do.
You do not.
Every time.
We don't try to communicate with them. So why would we be under the impression that a superior species to ours would try to communicate with us? I never stop, even though I want to, as I'm driving by a cow pasture and talk to the cows. I admire them. I'm sure they wonder what I'm doing.
Why are you lying right now?
And sometimes we bring them all together
You can be
and we do
honest.
horrible things to them.
You can be honest. When you see cute baby cows, you do.
Okay, if it's a cute baby cow, then maybe.
All right. Kimberly says, think about the treaty that was signed and agreed on for the human exchange. And okay, we're going to have to dig into that one day. What if there are multiple aliens, though? What if
there would have to be.
We may have signed a treaty with this group, with like the naked green-skinned ones, but the naked silver-skinned ones, we didn't sign a treaty with them, and we'd be open game.
And if you look historically at civilizations, they are vastly different.
And what if we did sign a treaty where the treater signers on our side were giving us to the aliens?
Yeah.
Like handing us over. Oh.
Yeah, it's a small price to play.
Hello, Jessica. Oh, that's a crazy story. 6 months and thousands of people. Makes you wonder what the heck they were experimenting on that community with.
Yes.
/for government or ET. And that's my thought.
Is it a test run? Is it a couple of shithead teenage alien kids?
That's another thing.
Who are just bullies.
Joyriding. They pushed the flying saucer down the driveway before they started it.
Yes, obviously.
Cruised out in the middle of the night, knock over a couple of mailboxes down the street at, Jupiter, and then came here and decided to mess with the ant pile.
And we have to recognize that if there is another species, another form of life that is spraying up, that within that's construct, there would be levels of maturity. There would be levels of, education. There would be levels. There's
kindness.
No way for them to all spring up. Right. Levels of emotional intelligence and things.
Mm-hmm.
So arguably, there would be shitty people in all species, or shitty species in all species.
Yeah. Shitty glorps.
And what if that's what we're dealing with? The ones that are more empathetic and try to just do good things, never visit.
Yeah. Jessica says, did you say they sucked their blood? That's what the victims
they claimed.
Thought. They perceived that they did that. And maybe they did. Maybe that was a way the aliens like to get iron.
And maybe because we're talking about an island that has lots of really large bugs and such that suck blood, maybe that was a fear given to them by experience that was then kind of laid over this experience.
Are vampire bats from down around that
area?
Yes. So, I mean, that's probably their experience. So there could be many reasons. And because when the army and the military came in and investigated it and then marked it as classified, we haven't been able to dig in on that and find out any particulars. Were there puncture wounds? Could the blood loss been caused by...
step one, why was it classified?
Like, let's say they're getting those burns, right? What if that burn is caused by like a microwave weapon where the blood would boil away?
Mm-hmm.
That would cause a loss of blood and the wound. Jessica says Google Earth would see maybe. Are you talking about when the aliens land or when they attack? This happened in 77, which, I don't know. I would like to think that if something happened nowadays, we would catch video of it.
And honestly, and I'm not even joking a little bit. If Gleep Glorp landed right now in front of this house,
making tea, is that?
I'd just be like, so this is what we're doing.
I have no tea in the house. I'm telling you what I'm doing.
I would just be like, okay, now this is what we're doing.
Could it be something to do with the energy grid or portal they may have been familiar with before?
See, that's a good question. That, like, in as much as I want to explain why they're here, I would like an explanation or some kind of correlation scientifically on why they are where they are and not in other places. And it cannot be simply explained away by an entire island of people just went crazy.
Yeah.
And then the military classified it. It just can't
There's
be
too much.
explained away that way.
That's such a wild coincidence. I mean, maybe.
I mean, there's always going to be that mob mentality.
I mean, we have what that time in France when they had that fungus get into the bread and caused everyone to go crazy. They talk about the.
Wasn't there one like dancing, like people were
Sure. Well, they
hysterically
say part of
dancing?
the Salem witch trials was from the same kind of fungus, a fungus that
Mm-hmm.
like psilocybin. There was the oracle at Delphi.
Yep.
Supposedly her chamber was flooded with methane gas. Is that right? It just
Mhm.
kept her kind of on the verge of like a
Existential kind
well,
of reality.
oxygen deprivation to a point where she so maybe I don't know. So it could be, but we
and I
choose
think
to believe.
I think that all of those things would be considered even by the locals this far into the future if they hadn't classified it.
Yeah, and you think if the military went in and checked it out and said, oh, yeah, it's methane gas, or
Right.
they would have said,
you guys are all suffering from a virus and it's making you get
yeah.
these lesions and have these visions, and that would not be classified.
No. So that is weird.
And then the general being suicided.
Kills himself, the captain.
Couple weeks.
Jessica says scanning for implant serial number to see if he was from an opposing faction or if he was protected by a species. What if they do have? No, we have talked about my implant removal before on the show, I believe. But it's a long story. It's a whole thing. But anyways.
But what if they are scanning?
Yeah, like
and they scan and they're like protected and they beam on out of here. What if our blood type,
like the dog chips?
Yes.
The aliens, while we're asleep, they inject a chip into us.
So now they say that type O negative blood is from off this planet. What if they scan and they see that I have it and then they just see me as an ally?
Or they want what blood you have.
Or they've ruined their race and they come looking for O negative.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
We talked about that aliens may be humans from the future trying to recover a bit of humanity by kidnapping and
they cannot
us.
Find humanity on Earth. I'm going to make that announcement right now.
They cannot find.
If you're looking for humanity,
we have
lost humanity.
You can't find humanity where you keep looking.
Right.
On the people.
It's not in there.
Humanity's not in there.
All these things are thought-provoking to me because in one simple or one incident, it is easy to explain away for lots of reasons. It is not fair to explain away. I don't want to give anybody that impression. It is not fair to explain away somebody's incident, which has got to be terrifying and life-altering and paradigm-shifting. It makes you question everything. It is not fair to explain it away, but it is easier as a whole, as a humans, to explain that away. Well, when you get these large incidents that go on and on and on for months, people, we got to have a conversation.
You're going to want an explanation that doesn't leave you open to an alien is coming to, conquer you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. James says in H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds had the Martians obtaining human blood. So the Martians were after human blood. What if human blood is like fuel for their saucers?
Hey, human blood is amazing. I'm just going to call it right now. It is a life source, literally.
Oh, Jessica says, maybe my injury was a bloodsucker. Now,
maybe. I'm just
They've
saying.
been going for the grundle, though.
Is your injury on your grundle?
And if it is, don't get too expressive because I want to be able to have sleep tonight and not nightmares.
The blood collection or testing could be done like this instead of full abduction, Kimberly says.
It could be.
Could this be
nabbing little bits from here and
PETA?
there?
HEDA. No, it would be, I don't know what it would be, but it would be aliens for the ethical treatment of humans got involved and
Yeah.
said abductions are cruel and unusual punishment. If you're going to do this testing, you have to find a way. So they create these orbs to collect instead of full abduction. What if
Solved.
they have an entire group of people who are holding signs for the
They're out protesting right now.
the
They
ethical
are-
treatment of humans?
They're throwing paint on each other for, I don't know, what if, you know how we have alien pins and alien
Mhm.
shirts? Do you think aliens are cruising around with people pins and people shirts?
People pins.
like
They've got giant probes and they're saying these are cruel.
like you get grandma a brooch, and like we get, grandma's brooch is usually a butterfly or a
Mhm.
cockroach or something. I don't know what brooches usually are, but something like that. Usually looks like a big bug. And but they have people brooches,
Mm-hmm.
like a trucker,
Well, and
like the trucker mud flap chick.
yeah, and they probably like all kinds of people. Like some of them, have like a heavy fetish for people, and so they have like I like bulldogs. Bulldogs are heavier,
Uh-huh.
and some people like chihuahuas. I mean, maybe, yeah.
Uh-huh. Man, that's wild.
People shirts. I'm gonna get you a people shirt.
Norma says the Rain have their own hot sauce. What? The Rain. Okay, we're gonna have to dig in more on that, Norma. What's the Rain and their own hot sauce? I like hot sauces.
Tell me more about hot sauce.
Yeah.
James says there was a case where American soldiers were attacked by a UFO in the Korean War, and a swift boat attacked and destroyed during the Vietnam War. There's lots of instances where there's individuals or small groups. This one was interesting because it was large scale, an entire island, went on for a long time, unexplained, classified, and then the guy dies.
Well, and that one guy commits suicide.
Yeah.
Okay, Jessica's explain it. You were saying if the aliens landed in the Sahara Desert, nobody would know. And then I thought, well, would it be picked up on Google Earth? It probably wouldn't. There are people who explore Google Earth, finding interesting things and then posting them. You can go find their websites, and some of it's really cool. Like in France, there's like a 80-foot snake skeleton statue on the coast, just like in the surf,
just hanging out,
made out of aluminum, if I remember. It's really cool. And then you find different ancient dig sites and things like that. So yeah, maybe it would be, but it would take someone digging around on Google Earth to find it, because those guys at Google aren't going to tell us no fun stuff.
They have their own hot sauce.
Oh, the Thai have their own. Yes, they do. Is that the one with the rooster on it?
Maybe they're growing their own hot sauce on top of taxis.
Yes, taxi hot sauce.
Taxi sauce.
Mm-hmm.
Early laser trials.
Yeah, and it could be.
We're talking 77.
Yeah.
This could have been early laser trials.
And they haven't been back because after they joyrid the flying saucer home, they've been grounded ever since. Time works.
Or what if it was our government doing early laser trials? They were seeing under what conditions climate-wise, how far away, how accurate are they, how badly do they burn by checking hospital records? Do they give you some kind of side effects beyond just the site burn? I mean, they could have collected a ton of information from this.
It may have been our military testing early laser weapons, didn't come up with the kill ratio we wanted, so we scrapped that project, and that's why we're still using the M16.
Could have been. You may have just solved it.
Every show. We solve it every show.
Every show.
I would like to see that on the record, Your Honor. Jessica says, if they raise the children with humanity, then it's a good way to start over. I agree. We do need some
humanity.
Yes.
How do you keep it, though?
So Jessica's wound is on her left lower abdomen.
Not the grundle.
So kind of on the hip.
Jared could draw you a map to the grundle.
Okay, to find the grundle, you find, I'll explain it later. It's kind of where where the good Lord sewed you up at the very end. It's
Connects everything.
It looks like a stitch.
Yes.
And that's what it is. Okay, Jessica says, from my hip bone to my bottom rib is injured, and I've been kicked with a boot. And it was kicked so hard it gave me atelectasis, which means the bottom branches of my lungs are collapsed. Ooh. Human Lives Matter too. Protest. Get some shirts made. Human Lives Matter, and stickers for the car. Pins are always a big win.
Yes, buttons, flags.
Yeah. Oh, we could kick this off.
Put it on coffee mugs. Hats. Oh yeah. Do aliens wear hats?
Painted on the street, crosswalks.
Yeah.
Murals on the sides of buildings. We could turn this Human Lives Matter into a movement.
Yeah.
And then I'm buying me a big house. Anyways, thanks for joining us, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Not a lot of news going on. Just a quick update earlier on today, just so that you're going to be in on a chat with me and Betsy. I went to a meeting with someone from our senator's office, Mike Lee's office down in Grantsville, and it was very cool that I went down there to kind of catch wind of what was going on. But the stuff that was talked about was it was, I would say it's a stuff of conspiracy theory, but we all know that's just calling out what's going to happen in a couple weeks. But it was that stuff. They talked about the Great Reset. They talked about the fourth turning. I mean, just people in the audience would mention these things. So this stuff it's
becoming mainstream.
It is. And I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know. I've got to do some historical digging into that to see how I feel about that. But anyways.
Very interesting. And he didn't record it. Oh,
I didn't think it would get that
fumble.
wild. Jessica says people would get offended. What if I drew you the picture?
No, if you did the Human Lives Matter too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it would.
Not too.
Everyone's offended
Human
by
Lives Matter ! Laura said, or Norma says, down with the aliens. All right, thanks everyone. We'll see you guys next
Friday.
week.
Have a great week.
Bye.